नाही घरीच आहे. नाही नाही ते तिचं ॲक्च्युली ठीक नव्हते ना आणि सोडायलाच कोणी नाही, घरी कोणीच नाही म्हणून पण गावीच आहे. त्याच्यामुळे तिने एक दोन ठेवून घेतला. उद्या देतो पाठवून. ये नीचे एक मिनट रहेगा कर लीजिए सर थोड़ा सा ये उछला थोड़ा सा उछला लीजिए आदमी का जगह बना बस बस कैमरा का बोला स्पीकर बोले ये ना सर कभी ऑडियो लिया क्या
हेलो
कभी ऑडियो हेलो हाँ कैमरा मी शूट करतो बघतो ठीक आहे मैंने डाला हो वाई केबल हाँ वाई केबल बट वो आएगा कि नहीं पता नहीं तो वाई केबल सर नहीं कटेगा नहीं कटेगा अभी तक अच्छा आपने कैमरा ये स्पीकर बजाएगी एक तो ऑन करूँगा मुझे गाना है
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AIPC Interactive. Our very honored chief guest, retired senior judge of the Supreme Court of India, Jasti Chelameswar, fellows from the various AIPC chapters, including my own, the Mumbai West chapter, and everyone in the audience who's taken out time to be here today to be part of this interactive. A very warm welcome to all of you. My name is KP Singh and I'm the secretary of the AIPC Mumbai West chapter, and I shall be the MC for tonight. The All India Professionals Congress is referred to as the AIPC, is the professional wing of the Congress, the Indian National Congress Party, and it encompasses people from various walks of life, professionals from various areas. And its formation basically, I feel, is a recognition for the kind of contribution the professionals had to the struggle for freedom of India. And its fellows seek to enhance the furtherment of cherished ideals of the Indian National Congress Party, which is liberty, plurality, equality, and social justice. And the AIPC Interactives they serve to allow an exchange of thoughts and ideas to further our unflinching commitment to the propagation of these ideals. Howard Zinn, a great historian and author, had famously stated that dissent is the highest form of patriotism, and it is in line with that school of thought that it is indeed very heartening to see today a full house that has come to listen to Justice Chelameswar, our chief guest for the evening. So without much ado, I would like to call on stage the president of our chapter, Vijay Pandey, to set the tone for the evening and also to welcome all of you. Mr. Vijay Pandey.
Good evening, everyone. As an advocate, I'm very happy today to see two retired Supreme Court judges, one Supreme Court judge and one Honorable High Court judge. I have appeared before so many esteemed judges, but today I'm so happy to have on a stage with the retired Justice Mr. Chelameswar. So it's an honor for me as a president of West Chapter that we are here to listen to you, sir, and we are waiting for your introduction. It is also my pleasure to welcome INC spokesperson and AIPC Maharashtra President Mr. Sanjay Jati, Shumel Gaikwad, Vice President, AIPC Maharashtra, and Mr. Matthew Antony, Secretary, State Secretary of AIPC, and friends from the various chapter. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Vijay. So, indeed, Justice Chelameswar does not need an introduction, and we strongly believe in the AIPC that each thought process and movement has its own role model. And Justice Chelameswar, your presence today, I'm sure is going to inspire many the cognitive process that starts today. It now gives me immense pleasure to invite on stage, onto dais, Matthew Antony, the Secretary of AIPC Maharashtra, to open up the evening and set the tone and explain to us the topic of the day. May I please invite Mr. Matthew Antony to come on stage.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a lot of young college students who have come here, which is a great pleasure for us. So, I will start with a quote from Justice Chelameswar. Unprecedented events have unprecedented consequences. On 12th of January, it was like a Shah Rukh Khan's hit, which happened when 4 judges, led by the senior most judge, and I know Chelameswar sir from his Kerala High Court Chief Justice days, and it was quite a shock as well as a surprise. The fact is that the chase for AIPC to get Justice Chelameswar to this platform is almost a half-year chase. He rejected us twice, but then we went back to him saying that for the conscience of this nation, we want you to be the same hero you were, who, as a lonely dissenter, who never cared for power, money, fame, left everything for the conscience of the nation. You have to come here. Thanks a lot for accepting the invitation and coming here. So now coming back to the second thing. On 12th January, when he did that, was he the Nostradamus for India to announce the undeclared emergency of the institutional collapse which the country has to foresee, or the country is witnessing right now? It is true to his last word on that day that we are seeing almost all the institutions which is descended to the scripture text from the government is being collapsed, is being inflicted with their own people. As said earlier, dissenter is a loner, but then democracy is achieved through the voice of these dissenters. And what we achieve through this democracy is the comfort which we all enjoy in our life. The cost of being silent, which we all are to a large extent, is more than our life, and it will take decades for this country to achieve what we have lost in these years. With this, I set this tone for the stage for today's conversation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So following the format of the AIPC Interactives, Sanjay will be in conversation with our chief guest, Justice Chelameswar. Following that conversation, we will have a Q&A session, which will be open to the audience, but that will be at a later stage. To start off the evening and the main event of the day, I think it's extremely prudent that we bring on Hassan Said, our social media coordinator of the West chapter, to do the honors of introducing to us, not that he does need introduction, our chief guest of the evening, Justice Chelameswar. Please do welcome on stage Hassan Said. Thank you.
Thank you, KP. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. we are privileged to have amongst us retired Supreme Court Justice Jasti Chelameswar, referred to as a sannyasi by former Chief Justice of India, M.N. Venkatachalaya. Justice Chelameswar has soldiered the causes of freedom and transparency. His efforts are widely accredited for bringing transparency and accountability in the functioning of the Supreme Court. His dissenting judgment in the NJAC, his judgment striking down Section 66A of the IT Act and raising the issue of right to privacy as a fundamental right in the case of Aadhaar, speak of the moral compass that has guided him throughout his career. In conversation with Justice Chelameswar, and our host for the evening is Mr. Sanjay Jha, the President of All India Professionals Congress, Maharashtra, and National Spokesperson for the Indian National Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to give a hearty welcome to our chief guest and the host for the evening.
So I'll do the, can you guys hear me at the back? Okay, can you hear me at the back now? Am I loud enough?
Yeah, kind of.
I
Am I audible?
So I think now Justice Chelameswar will ask the question and answer it himself.
Sit down, please. Please, mobile.
All right. My first request to the audience will be that please put your mobile phones on silent, because I know you're not going to switch it off. So please keep it on silent. And that is a very humble request. I think it's not just respectful to our very esteemed guests, but also to the fellow people who are sitting to your left and right. So are we ready to start the evening? Yes. Is the Mumbai audience excited to hear Justice Chelameswar? Yes. I mean, can we have a more thunderous response to that? Yes. Sounds good. So are you okay with that, or do we need to raise the decibel levels?
Absolutely okay.
You're okay with that. All right. I mean, let me start by saying that it was a cold, wintry morning a couple of months ago, and we come to the end of the year. And normally, come December, there is a yearly roundup of what were the highlights of the year. And I can tell you when this year's highlights are done, and all of you will obviously assume that it's going to be about the war between CBI versus CBI, etc. But the one topping that is going to be what happened on January 12th in New Delhi. I mean, there are 365 days in a year, but I thought that, frankly, what transpired, the four senior judges of the Supreme Court Collegium coming and making a public statement on what they thought was a very serious crisis, actually will probably be the most spectacular statement of the year. So let me start with that question for you, sir. I mean, you yourself said that this is an extraordinary event in the history of a nation. And I'm sure you have been asked this question by others as well.
Hundreds of times so far.
Yeah. So I can tell you that Justice Chelameswar is very used to, kind of hearing people ask questions and know how to answer them or not answer them. So I have a tough job at hand, but I'm not going to give up either. So my question to you, sir, is I'm sure the audience wants to know that what was the trigger? And I know it probably built up over a period of time. But to everything, there is one immediate cause that creates a situation which is so unparalleled. So was there a trigger? And if so, what was that?
As I mentioned, as we mentioned that day, and subsequently on many an occasion,
when this question was posed. There's nothing like an individual event triggering off this press conference. It was a culmination of a series of events. And it all started much earlier.
You're talking about November 2017?
November 2017. We gave a letter to the French Justice. That was in public domain. We released a copy of the letter from Czech. We pointed out certain things which in our opinion were not conducive to the democratic norms of this country or the prestige of the Supreme Court. Notwithstanding that letter, situation did not improve. Quite a few things happened. Individual facts may not be very relevant at this stage. We saw no way of putting things in order because the dialogue, I have heard subsequently a lot of people who criticize this.
Yeah, there were people who said it's a manufactured revolt.
Well, I'm sure tomorrow they're going to say, yes, this is the proof. Because this is the Congress forum that Chelameswar is a Congress agent. I'm sure they're going to say it. Though personally, I believe, I must tell you honestly, which may displease some of you because the Congress forum. It's only a change of the name in this country. Congress, VAP, something else, something else. The operating systems are the same for all the political parties. I'm sure by tomorrow morning, going another half an hour on the internet, you'll find out this. In fact, yesterday somebody sent a WhatsApp message saying that I believe there is a talk that I'm going to contest the next Lok Sabha election. On behalf of the Congress party. I assure this country I'm not going to contest any election on behalf of any party. That much is clear.
That's the reason why I think Matthew called you an Nostradamus. You know what's going to happen tomorrow.
I know it. I'm not a child. I retired as a senior most of this country. And I have been an active student of Indian politics. I know what happened. Anyway, tell you. So, it is who criticized us, people of the great standing in the society, who are considered the conscience keepers of Indian democracy, saying that these judges should have settled the issue within the closed doors of the Supreme Court.
Would you like to take the name of some people whose criticism bothered you?
It may not be a good case.
Can I do that?
Yes. I can't stop you, it's your freedom.
I mean, one of them was very well respected Mr. Fali Nariman, who was very critical. It took a lot of people by surprise, but he seemed to be quite,
Well, he's entitled for his views, that's not a point. But the question is this. I'm baffled to read that unless these people believe that we are children not knowing what we are doing, such irresponsible people, and unless they believe that we did not make any effort before we went to the press, if there is any possibility of solving the problem within the closed doors of the institution, why would any one of us would venture out?
No, but there's something very interesting. Just to interrupt you there. It's very interesting because, you're right in saying that, that possibly there were multiple issues that happened before. But you also made a mention that morning, and these are your exact words, even this morning on a particular issue. I mean, these are the exact words. So, unless you can't share it with the public, which I'm sure now that you're retired, maybe you can, but there was a particular issue. So there was something that was definitely causing a lot of angst.
Yeah, but I will not share what happened that morning for one more year.
Okay.
One more year I will not share what happened that morning.
So can we expect a press conference on Jan 13th, 2019?
Necessarily a press conference. A press conference is not the only way of doing it, I suppose. There are various ways.
Okay.
Yes, of communication.
You know, I think, I don't know how many of you remember this, but in that press conference, I think Justice Chelameswar, I thought you made probably one of the strongest statements I've heard in a public platform, and I am a political personality, so we are used to hearing insane stuff. But what you said was, I thought, very deeply profound. You said, I don't want 20 years later, and these are the exact words, I don't want 20 years later that Justice Chelameswar, Mr. Ranjan Gogoi, Mr. Madan Lokur, and Mr. Korean Joseph, that we are accused of having sold our souls.
It's two words you missed in that statement. 20 years later, some wise man said. Those are the words.
Well, that was not a deliberate omission. I want to make it.
It's all on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. Yeah.
Therefore, there can't be any problem about it. You can check out. That's what I said.
So my point is, when you make that statement, I mean, it shows perhaps the state of the judiciary to be under some severe stress.
I don't know how many of you related that statement. Such a statement was made on an earlier occasion by a very, very prominent public personality of this country in connection with a couple of judges, incidentally, both of them are from this Bombay High Court, the judges of the Bombay High Court. That these honorable judges.
Can you all hear us at the back? We'll just wait till this gets fixed up. Unfortunately, it's... Just can you raise the sound levels, please?
लास्ट टाइम भी ये प्रॉब्लम हुआ था एक स्पीकर लगाने को बोल इधर स्पीकर एक लगा सेकंड टाइम थर्ड टाइम हुआ अभी
Okay, mine is okay. Mine is actually just raise the levels a little bit. It's okay. At least at 9 o'clock in the night, so I'm pretty much used to a lot of noise. Yeah, hello. Hello.
Now is it already?
No.
Exchange mics.
I know you don't want to hear me, that's okay. I mean, you can be a little more subtle there.
They're trying for subtlety.
I mean, you could have said, you asked a question, then pass the mic, take it back. And while we are waiting, let me tell you, there must have been like half a dozen reminders that I gave to this team. The only thing you need to check before you start is the sound. Are you guys ready now?
How is it now? Oh, thank you.
Well, that was a commercial break. Too many advertisements for this program. So coming back to you, hard words used by you. Why?
Because such a statement was made earlier in the context of other judges. Such a statement was made. Now, I don't want somebody to say it after 20 years after I'm dead and gone. I can't answer it. If somebody wants to abuse me today, I would rather take it today, rather taking an abuse after I leave this world. Because I have not been in a position to handle it and answer it.
No, I get that. And but let me now try and, this is my great privilege to be speaking to somebody like you, and I'm trying very hard to, try and corner you here a little bit. Justice Ranjan Gogoi, at that time, the Justice, now the Chief Justice of India, somebody asked him, a reporter did ask him, is it about Justice Lawyer? And he answered in a monosyllable. He said, yes. So was the Justice Lawyer case the truth?
Please recollect the words. He said, of course, somebody was pestering him, and finally he was so annoyed. He said, yes, that's also one of, he didn't say yes, that's also one of the reasons.
Okay.
You want to replay the,
Okay.
replay the,
Yeah, so I was only trying to be little abbreviating that, but end of day, I think it links up, sir, to the whole point that you all brought up, which is the benches. Now, I think the big fear that a lot of people in the country felt when they heard your press conference was this whole debate on, are the benches in the highest courts of India subject to being, and I'm using a very inappropriate term, you can condemn me for that, fixed.
subject to?
Being fixed, in the sense that you actually have a bench.
It all depends on your definition of the word fixed, but some amount of manipulation certainly was going on. In fact, a couple of cases were withdrawn from some of us, and they were listed after. Normally, you are a lawyer, practicing lawyer. Practice in any high court, any constitutional court is, if a matter is listed before a particular bench at a particular point of time, normally the matter would continue to appear before the bench unless the judges hearing that matter recuse, or for some rational purpose, the Chief Justice decides to withdraw that matter and assign it to somebody else. Overnight matters disappearing from the list of one judge and appearing before another judge. Well, you can draw whatever inference you want, but it's a possible inference that can be suggested is, well, the Chief Justice had no confidence in these judges, that these people are not very nice judges, therefore they were looking. Well, of course, that's a possible inference you can draw. But suddenly, these are questions which somebody needs to answer. What is the basis on which this is a case of withdrawal? Now, in fact, all kinds of projections were made saying that we are saying that the matters are being listed before junior. We never use the word senior, junior in the matter. Question is one of a fair and transparent administrative process. When it comes to the administration and the government, the constitutional courts keep on propounding the theory that you remember the old judgment of Justice Bhagavati. Every aspect of the governance must be informed with reason. I suppose the Supreme Court can't be an exception to that on the administrative side. Judicial side, of course, this problem doesn't arise. Good or bad judgments contain reasons.
Sure.
Some of those reasons may be tenable, you may believe some reasons are untenable. That's a jurisprudential problem. But at least reasons are recorded. On the administrative side, the problem is this.
Well, I think, sir, the point that comes up, and I think this is probably, I'm sure, in the mind of the audience as well, that while you all did make a very serious acquisition, your critics said that it's not as if it didn't happen before. So they're saying that
Therefore, it would be right as if the earlier generation did not raise this question.
Right.
Well, all right, continue, have fun.
Right.
Let us see what happens. Don't try today that the CBI is destroyed and the Reserve Bank is destroyed. If you keep silent, this is what is going to happen.
I think that's probably because our debates have become.
I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, criticism is looked at by anybody in power. Not necessarily in this country, any country. Men and women in power obviously don't like criticism. Criticism is not to hear criticism is not a very pleasant thing. But remember this, if you recollect, when George Bush got elected, his election was in litigation. Al Gore challenged the election process. The Supreme Court of the United States eventually held in favor of George Bush. There was a huge amount of legal literature published after that decision, criticizing that judgment of the Supreme Court. One of the pieces of criticism is in a book titled Supreme Injustice. I'm sure some of the members of the audience might have read it, by Professor Alan Dershowitz. He taught constitutional law in Harvard University. You can read that book. It's a very interesting reading, a very profound book. One sentence I'll quote from that book. He said in that book, a country whose highest court can't be trusted in testing times is a country whose way is surely paved for dictatorship. Things are not going well in the highest court. And if the civil society and all those who are concerned with the country, the population, the people of this country don't take care of the situation, one by one things, further bad things would follow. And somebody, before I came on here, somebody was mentioning that something happened in the CBI, something happened, is happening in the Reserve Bank. What will happen?
But I think all of you will remember that it was the election that Al Gore literally gave away to George Bush because of the federal court's decision in Florida. But sir, the point is, you have always been an outlier. I remember, I don't know how many of you have read the National Judicial Appointments Commission, and you were the lone dissenter.
It's a recorded fact.
It's a recorded fact.
It doesn't require
So let me ask you, you as a judge of the Supreme Court had greater confidence in the political executive. I'm not saying entirely, as opposed to the collegiate. But you look at the situation maybe over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to come to that. If today there is this major internecine warfare between two of the senior most officers of India's premier anti-corruption investigating agency, if India's central bank is literally complaining that we're being throttled, do you feel that maybe you would like to revise that thought at the moment?
No, first of all, what did I say in that judgment? Have you analyzed it?
I think it's beautifully written. And I think you had a very compelling point. No, you mentioned nepotism and,
No, see, these are all supporting logic.
Yeah.
The core issue in that matter is whether the collegium should have exclusive say in the matter of the appointment of the judges of constitutional courts, or whether the elected governments of the day should also have some role in the matter.
Sure.
The majority held that they can't. As a student of constitutional law, I found it unacceptable in a democracy to tell that the elected governments would have no role whatsoever in the matter of the choice of the judges is something which I can't understand. Question is, how wisely, how rationally the elected governments are exercising that power is a different matter. When I supported the NJAC, what was it that there was a representative in the NJAC? The law minister is one of the members.
Sure.
The petitioners objected to the presence of the law minister. In fact, one of the senior lawyers appearing for the petitioners said the law minister in the collegium would create more familiarity with the judges. There will be evening meetings over a drink. This is the language used by I don't know whether you were present in the court at that point of time. Well, that could lead to all kinds of unwarranted practices. Question is, if a judge and the law minister want to meet and interact, it's not necessary to have a meeting in the NJAC. The meetings can always take place, they have always taken place in the the privacy of some residence. That's not the point. It depends upon the men who are holding these offices and their value system.
The individual credentials.
Individuals. That's what I held in that. I never said that the government should have an absolute say in these matters, or they should. Now, I still hold the same view.
No, because there is a
Let the government have a say in the matter. Make sure that the government does not use that authority to pervert the system. That is in the hands of the court. if a particular, now what is happening for the last couple of years after that judgment, what is denied to the government by the judgment, now the government is indirectly handling, they are not clearing names which they are not interested in, they are clearing names which they wanted to clear.
But that's
Now,
exactly...
what did the institution do? What did the institution do about it? After all that lecture about independence of the judiciary, if names which are cleared by the collegium are not cleared by the government for indeterminate frame of time, what is the institution doing about it?
No, but sir, that question could come back to you actually, because, you know, end of day today, if you look at the memorandum of procedure of which you really wrote your letter of November 2017, look at the government's you know, prevarication on some of the names. So I think in a great number of ways it's a slippery terrain, because, you know, end of day...
See, once again, that's what I...
Because you have to be pragmatic about the political...
Once again, Mr. Shah,
yeah.
It's not only happening with the government of the day. Unfortunately, it happened with earlier regimes also. I'm sure some of you must have read Avinav Chandrachud's book. He published a book around that point of time when the matter was going on. He gave illustrations of those cases where recommendations made by the chief, at that point of time the collegium didn't exist in the 70s and 80s. It was only the Chief Justice of the High Court, the Chief Justice of India and the government. Recommendations made by the Chief Justice of the High Court were simply ignored by the government of India because the government of India at that point of time did not like a particular recommendation. In fact, he gives an illustration of a particular case. A particular judge in Madhya Pradesh decided some case against a very powerful politician of that state at that point of time, was an additional judge. Notwithstanding the repeated recommendations by the then Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh, he was never made permanent for quite some time. Eventually, it took 3-4 years before he was made permanent. Not that it's happening only now. See, that's what I said in my opening statement. Men and women in power, they always want to subjugate the institutions.
And people are vulnerable.
Huh?
And people are vulnerable.
Yes.
So my next question actually links up to that point. You have, I don't want to take names, but you have a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India. Within months of actually, you know, kind of retiring from that position, becoming a governor of a state. What's your response to that? Firstly, I know you have publicly stated, you said it some time ago, that you will not take up any position, you're not going to fight an election. But there's a former CGI who's become a governor of a state, and in fact, there was a lot of speculation on that. What's your take on that? I mean, should there be a cooling off period?
I would like to ask your opinion. What do you think of it? I'll give my opinion later. What do you think of it?
No, I personally...
You're a member of the bar. Forget about the fact that you belong to a political party and all
Sure.
those things. You're a member of the bar. You're a member of the civil society. What do you think of it?
No, as a member of the civil society, I'll put it to vote. And you know, maybe let's ask the audience here. How many of you in the audience believe that judges of either the High Court or the Supreme Court should take up an executive position or any other ordinary responsibility post-retirement?
They should not.
They should not. How many people say no? How many people say no? That looks like the majority. How many people say a cooling off period?
It's like the counting of the hands in the assembly, Mr. I don't think it's a majority. It's only some 30.
But I'll simplify that. How many of you say yes? But I mean, this looks like a visible minority.
No.
Okay, so you are not very safe here at the moment.
Now I'll answer. If so many people think it's not right, why did you people not raise this question when it happened? How many of us raised? What did the civil society do about it? What is the point in asking me today? Well, I can give some answer this way or that way, that doesn't make any difference today. But if the civil society believes that it should not happen, then the civil society should have protested, wasted its protest. Well, whether your protest would have resulted in anything or not is a different matter. The very fact that the civil society is protesting would be a great deterrent factor in a democratic society. When the civil society keeps quiet, things happen. Appointments are made there on the day of the retirement. Last working day, people are appointed to some other new office. Nobody ever protested. They go on.
I think, honestly, to this wonderful audience in Mumbai, I think that's a great message. That, you know, when we choose to be silent, you know, then I guess we are ourselves to blame. I think that's I think the fundamental message.
Yes. In fact, of course, if I'm not sounding rhetorical, I think it is from Dante. He said, the hottest places in the hell are reserved for those, remember that statement, for those who maintain silence when things are going wrong. If not a hell, at least the democracy would not be a very healthy democracy. That would be hell enough.
Yeah. No, I think it's so absolutely true, and I do believe, sir, that the statement that you made, since you mentioned democracy, I'll take a lead of that one. You had mentioned India's democracy is in danger. I think those are words which, if you Google today, it's really the highlight of the entire press conference. I could keep coming back to the press conference, but India's democracy is in danger. Would you like to elaborate on that?
When institutions which are supposed to be institutions created for safeguarding the democratic system of this government are faltering, is the democracy not in danger? That's what
do you think?
That's what we believed.
Yeah. And we are watching actually the CBI, the RBI, the income tax, the enforcement directorate, the CBC. I mean, frankly, even there are questions being asked from the election commission.
Mr. Jha, pause there for a minute. For example, forget about the Supreme Court judges who is right, Chelameswar is right or Chelameswar is wrong. There are a lot of people who saw political conspiracies in this and personal agendas in my press conference. Ultimately, of course, both the credit and discredit only I got. There were 3 more participants along with me in the press conference. There were 3 more participants. I seem to be getting all the credit and discredit also. It's all right. Anyway, that's not the point. Let us talk about the CBI. For 70 years in this country, nobody is sure of the legal structure of that organization. What exactly is the legal structure of that organization? It's not a constitutional body. It's not a statutory body. Just one provision in the Delhi Special Police Establishment is the basis on which this whole huge setup, which has almost tantalizing power in its hands. And every time people in public life, politics, when they are in opposition, accuse that organization to be an instrument of oppression by the ruling party, whoever is in the opposition. The same ruling party, when it gets in the opposition, accuses CBI. And all this tamasha went on for 70 years. And in every state, whenever something happened and with some political implications, invariably appeals were made either on the judicial side or otherwise, saying that refer this case to CBI. We don't trust the local police, because there is no proper legal framework for that body. The nature of its powers and duties are not properly defined for 70 years. And mind you, every political party, including the political party to which you belong, is responsible for this state of affairs. They could have created a proper statutory framework for the organization. Because everybody wants such a nebulous state of affairs whether it would be easy to manipulate. They want such a situation. That's why I said in the beginning, the operating systems are the same.
Not everybody is on Android and the iOS. So my question to you on the Supreme Court is one that personally I was very distraught to see what is happening, and I'm sure you have read it in the papers. On the Kerala temple issue, the Sabrimala.
Sorry, that review application is coming. I won't like to comment.
Okay. Then would you comment on the fact that one of the I believe will be probably the most significant verdict will be on the Ram temple issue. I just want to ask you a legal question here. That the matter is up before the Supreme Court, but we're also hearing members of the ruling party talk about bringing an ordinance. I have no answer, so I want to ask you this question. Can can the parliament enact a law, as that's what the ruling party is talking about, but the matter is still sub judice before the Supreme Court?
Whether it can happen or not legally is one aspect. Whether it will happen or not factually is another aspect. Whether such things happened in the past is just one more aspect of the matter. At least in the past, I am aware of 2 incidents where decisions of the Supreme Court was sought to be scuttled by a legislative process. If you recollect the Kaveri water dispute, after the Supreme Court handed over the decision, the Karnataka Legislative Assembly made a law virtually nullifying the judgment of the Supreme Court. Then something else happened, you remember all the legal history. A similar problem, interstate water dispute between Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana in the Bias River. There was an old settlement between 3 governments, a 45-year-old settlement. At that point of time, all the states were ruled by one particular political instrumental, it's the party to which you belong to. Later, when the political setup changed in some of the states, disputes arose. One of the states made a legislation nullifying the earlier agreement between the 3 states. A presidential reference is made to whether such a legislation could be made. This reference is 10-year-old. It is still pending in the Supreme Court. Why is it not getting... But therefore, when you start dusting things under the carpet, these things would happen. The nation should have woken up to these things much earlier.
So you think it's not incompatible? So that
I'm not saying incompatible or compatible. Why is it happening is a question. That we don't take note of these things at the right point of time. Naturally, these things happen. Well, that they would do somebody from the ruling party saying it may not necessarily mean they are going to do it. I don't know.
Right. I mean, would you take this criticism, frankly speaking, which I think I personally wasn't too happy about, I don't know about people in the audience, on section 377, when the Delhi High Court actually talked about decriminalizing homosexuality for the LGBT community, the Supreme Court reversed it and said Parliament passes a law. We are very happy that subsequently the Supreme Court has now decriminalized it. But do you feel that was, in a great number of ways, regressive?
Come again? I didn't get the question.
I mean, the Supreme Court actually reversed the High Court decision.
Right.
Do you think it was, in a great number of ways, retrograde? Because you know that the parliamentary processes are, practically speaking, a lot more of a cumbersome process. And there is a minority, by the way, so I'm going to ask you this, because there is a statement made, and I'm not going to tell you who the judge is, you know it, that this is a minority community. I mean, the question that a lot of people ask, I ask myself, why is the Supreme Court treating a small section of people, maybe, but they are citizens of India, as you rightly mentioned, everyone is a citizen of India. Why would the Supreme Court have said that there are a minority number of people and therefore let the legislature...
Why are you asking me that question? Why didn't you ask that question to the learned judge who made that statement?
So I'm asking you
on the other hand, I don't know whether you have read my judgment on the election symbols matter, DMDK matter. Did you read that judgment?
At the moment I'm not aware.
Okay, fair enough. Not necessarily that everybody should read every judgment, particularly my judgments. I'm not asking you. The point is, incidentally, there was an old case, this gentleman, Mr. Subramanian Swamy, he was the president of Janata Party at one point of time. Janata Party had a particular election symbol, that Haldar. Then after a particular point of time, the party's performance, electoral performance, fell down the minimum. Then there was a threat of the party losing the election symbol. He went to the court saying that as a registered political party, he is entitled to continue whatever be his performance at the election. Unfortunately, in my view, The Supreme Court rejected this plea, and the Supreme Court observed that it's unimaginable that a political party without any following can continue to exist. This judgment was cited by the Election Commission before us, before a bench of which I was a member. It was presided over by Justice Kabir. Once again, there I was a dissenting. It was a dissenting judgment. I said it. See, democracies are not about numbers. If it's only about numbers, Hitler was the greatest democrat. You remember the amount of popularity Hitler enjoyed when he came to power. There's something more to it about a democracy. It's all about all democracies, all constitutional governments is about the minorities. Majorities can always decide what they want. It is in whatever form, in whatever. It need not be religious minority. It can be religious minority. It could be minority of any form. Not when we talk about, unfortunately, in this country, when we talk about minority, people jump to the conclusion it's about religious minority. Not necessarily. The political minority. Some political party which has only 2% vote share, it's still a political party. And you come to the conclusion that they don't have a right to have it's a dangerous proposition in my view. What would happen, say for example, take the present ruling party. In the 8th Lok Sabha 1984, it had 2 seats in the Lok Sabha. They're all transient things in democracies. Public opinion changes. Now, unfortunately, Supreme Court recorded a finding that it's unimaginable to have a political party with a... I didn't agree with it. The point is this. So therefore, why don't you ask those learned judges, why did you record this? Why are you asking me? On the other hand, I said this.
No,
and you haven't even read my judgment.
I agree with
I'm
that.
sorry.
I have...
Point is, and I'm not the question of my judgment as somebody, this is the debate. If the civil society doesn't keep a track of what is going on, these things will happen.
I agree with you completely on that, and I'm sure the audience will agree with that. I mean, I'm not trying to flatter you, sir, but your Aadhaar verdict format or the section 67A and 66A were landmark. So, linked to what you just said, can we perhaps say that the personality or maybe the ideology of a judge, do you think that can affect outcomes? Because that can affect legal outcomes. I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
Certainly, of course, a judge's personality would certainly have a bearing on the decision-making process. Certainly.
It would.
Yes.
Because I think that's a significant point.
It may not be the sole determining factor, but it would certainly have a bearing on it.
It will have a bearing on the body. Because, I was looking, sir, at, the Mecca Masjid,
If you recollect, Justice Frankfurter in one of the judgment, he said, as a member of the world's most persecuted minority, who knows it better than me, he said. It's the judge's personality, it's his background, it is his,
I get you.
You remember that statement of Frankfurter? He was a Jew. So he belonged to, he said it in a judgment. Who knows it? Who knows the problems of a minority better than me? I belong to the world's most persecuted minority.
And it links up, sir, to the question because, once again we saw the unfortunate Mecca Masjid blast that happened in Hyderabad. And a judge who gave the verdict, wanting to join a political party immediately after the verdict. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, do you think somewhere a lot of the young students of law who are here, I mean, in a great number of ways, it's a disillusionment, it's a disenchantment. The political system has serious flaws. I mean, I'm not even going to deny it. We got a long way to go. But the judiciary is one of the most respected in the world. In fact, the other day I was in a conversation and nurses, doctors, judiciary are amongst the most respected vocations in the world. Most respected in the world. So when these things happen, it does make society feel very vulnerable. Would you agree with that?
I agree with you.
And you believe, therefore, that right now, when you did the press conference, this is a moment for the Supreme Court itself to start sending the message that we got to get our house in order.
Well, four of us spoke out our minds. We were not speaking for the full court.
But did you have their tacit support? Of at least the majority?
I decline to answer this question.
I think you are being very tacit. So one of the ideas that comes up is when you watch, say, the Brett Kavanaugh in America. I mean, he goes through an entire public hearing. I mean, there are questions asked on his conduct, on his behavior. Somebody comes up and actually, kind of speaks against him and gives facts and data. Do you think at some stage that kind of transparency would happen, or would you recommend that at all?
Whether it's going to happen, when is it going to happen, I don't know. Whether it's going to happen at all also, I don't know. But I would recommend it.
You would recommend it?
I would recommend it.
That's a significant thing, yeah. It's
recommend
transparency.
Let the country know what kind of judges are being appointed to the constitutional courts in this country.
Right.
What is their understanding of law? What are their views on various issues touching the society? What are their political values? There's nothing wrong if a judge has a political affiliation, but let it be made public. No, there's nothing. I think it's always better that the society knows how these
appointments are
made and what kind of people are becoming judges.
And how do you?
And if you recollect, taking the same American example, Reagan made a nomination to the court. Robert Burke. The nomination never went through. There was a terrible campaign run against her, not on any ground. The only ground against him was that he was an ultra-conservative.
Yeah.
Ultra-conservative. Lawrence Tribe, the Harvard professor, and the American Civil Liberties Society, all these people ran a tremendous campaign. At some stage, Burke withdrew his candidature. Otherwise, he's a very, very accomplished man. You read his book. After the whole episode, he published a fantastic book. I don't know whether you've seen that. It's an interesting title. The Tempting of America, Political Seduction of Law. That is the title of that book. It's a wonderful reading. He explains various views of his views on various aspects and how he was misquoted and misunderstood, all those things. The point is, Burke's hearings, when Burke was, his name was nominated, those hearings, they're all published. Actually, the videos are also available. You must see them. What kind of intense scrutiny goes on there? And what is the scrutiny that goes on?
Yeah, nothing at all, nothing at all. Yeah. I think that would be a significant step, and some of our TV channels could also get some good TRP on that one. And
that's the problem. You start looking at only as rating for that purpose. The rating is for something more significant.
That's right. No, I agree with you. But sir,
see, I tell you. Talking about the Supreme Court and the choice of the judges. What are the considerations which play a role? Legitimate considerations. That a particular state is not represented, a particular region is not represented. These are some of the things. Then seniority. All India seniority. This is All India seniority is another wonderful noun because therefrom it comes. It all started with the transfer of the judges policy. Before that, this All India seniority business. Prior to this transfer policy, a judge would become the chief justice in his own parent high court if he has a tenure long enough to reach that position. Now, eventually, when the strength of the Supreme Court was 7 or 11 or 14 or this question of representation of all the states didn't arise. Somebody had to choose, the government, the Chief Justice of India had to choose, and in the process they looked for perhaps the best available material. Now it's almost becoming a representative institution. with the number going up to 31, every state in a democracy, legitimately they believe that we are entitled for a seat in the Supreme Court. We have created a situation. Then what happens, without, I don't want to mention the names, somebody gets in on the ground that he is the senior most in all India seniority. Not because his state is not represented or something else. Only on the ground that in all India seniority is the senior most. Nobody asks the question what judgments he wrote, what kind of judgments he wrote. And then afterward, don't complain, look here, the Supreme Court is doing this or doing that. These are the considerations on which we select people to the constitutional courts in this country.
So can I ask you a slightly personal question here? A lot of people I know from the legal fraternity believe that you would have been the Chief Justice of India sometime back. Somewhere down the line, for whatever reasons, I mean, you don't have to give us the reasons.
Today.
Is that somewhere down the line? How do you handle that? Because people believe that.
See, look here, Mr. Cha, a lot of people expected, or not expect. I'm not on that question. As on today, it makes no difference to me. I'm retired, but I can tell you this much. Kerala produced two outstanding jurists, Matthew and Krishnayer. Neither of them became the Chief Justice of India. It's not necessary that everybody should become the Chief Justice. Those two names will be remembered so long as democracy in this country survives, Krishnayer and Matthew. Not many who became the Chief Justice would be remembered. Some of them are already forgotten. And some of them are remembered for wrong reasons. Next motive, I would rather be happy to be remembered as a good judge, not as a bad Chief Justice.
I can tell you, as you can hear from the civil society here, I think they are in full agreement with you on that one. One more question where I feel, I'm assuming a lot of people were a little unhappy with the Supreme Court. Freedom of speech. Sir, for the Supreme Court to say that defamation must be criminal and you're upholding that, today, in today's times in particular, you criticize this government, they will send you on the fastest train to Pakistan. You're straight away branded anti-national and
I was branded as anti-national. A lot of things. And tomorrow morning, I'm sure once again it will appear.
But sir, I'm just thinking, young people are wary of being critical on WhatsApp. Somebody will file an FIR or defamation. Isn't defamation somewhere down the line to decriminalize it? Somewhere down the line, that will be the key to freedom of expression. Because it's used by the state as a form of repression.
There are two things. One is how it is being used is one aspect of the matter. Whether it should be there at all is not another matter. I'll tell you something. Some of the invective which I have received after my press conference in a most unparliamentary language, see, I'm not averse to criticism. If you say I'm wrong, a lot of people said Chelameswar should not have done this. These four judges should not have done this. They should not have held a, judges should not have held a press conference. This kind of criticism, I understand, is no difficulty. At least I'm a Democrat in that sense. But then if you start resorting to unparliamentary language, the most horrid language, I don't know whether you have noticed it after the recent judgment dealing with adultery. I don't know whether you have noticed the comments on the internet, some of them, not all of them, some of them. In fact, I was paid. Somebody put a comment. They talked about the mothers and sisters of those judges who held their opinion. Then do you say that defamation should be totally given up in a country which has no respect for decency and morality? Now, the point is how you use it. Whether it should be used to suppress the rational dissent, that's a different matter.
but you do believe that there are people who may exploit that the gap.
How do you answer this? How do you handle these situations? Tell me. Okay, one way is, of course, if you are a saint, simply ignore it. Or if you are helpless, simply ignore it, because you know there is no way of handling it. But how do you deal with it? Of course, by prosecuting such persons, would it solve the problem is a larger philosophical question. When it's for the society to take a decision, it's for the lawmakers. See, Britain has done away by law. Whether we follow the same value system here or not is a different question.
That's right. That's right. No, I agree with you on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, please get ready with your questions. I want to come to you very quickly. So another question to you. I mean, and this one is now, moving away from your press conference. How does the Indian judiciary, led by the Supreme Court, respond to the fact that you have roughly 27 million or maybe 30 million pending cases? And a lot of people feel that the Supreme Court gets too much of a Supreme Court, as in all courts, get long breaks and long vacations, which I don't agree with personally, but a lot of people feel that way. How do we respond? How do we sort it out? I mean, we need more judges, more fast-track courts, more maybe, arbitration, more, out-of-court settlements. What's the way out? Because, I mean, can you imagine the number of people who are suffering on account of that?
It's too huge a topic. I can't give a one-liner answer in this. There is required to be...
Okay, who's responsible?
Whatever you are suggesting, more arbitration, more number of courts, each one of them, even none of them individually is an answer to the problem. All of them collectively perhaps would help solve the problem. But then it requires a proper debate. Who is initiating the debate? No government ever initiates, except everybody accuses the judicial system for the delay. What is the average budgetary allocation for the judicial department in any state in the last 70 years? Have you ever checked that?
All I know is it's extremely low.
Huh?
Extremely low.
No. Any idea?
I think less than 1%.
Slightly better. It's less than 2% in any case. It hovers between 1 and 2.
1 and 2%.
So with that kind of an allocation, in fact, 4 years back, in 2014, just before the election to the Lok Sabha, the Bar Council of India organized a big event in Ahmedabad. 5 or 6 of the Supreme Court judges were invited. I was also one of them. 5, 6 sitting chief justices were there. Local judges of the Allahabad High Court. So 5,000 members of the Indian Bar. And this once again is on the YouTube. Well, all of us were asked to speak. Somebody spoke something. The present Prime Minister, at that point of time, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, was present. In fact, I mentioned in that meeting that day this problem of pendency.
Pending cases.
I said, at that point of time, I was 60, 61. I have been an active student of Indian political system. I have heard a lot of leaders promising a lot of free things, free mobile phones, free laptops, free buffaloes. No, I'm serious. In Assam, I was the Chief Justice of Assam Guwahati High Court, of which Assam is also part of the jurisdiction. There was a scheme, they distribute pigs for the poor, because there are some sections of people for whom it is an activity, economic activity. I have seen all these things. I have not heard any leader promising a new court if he is elected to power. I made this statement on that day. In fact, I asked the audience, the 5,000 strong audience, if any one of you have ever heard a leader promising a new court, please raise your hand. I would be very happy. Nobody shows the hand. That's the truth. Because it's a low priority item for all political parties. If I may say, the legal system is some kind of a unavoidable nuisance for political parties. Nobody is happy with it. But they don't know how to get rid of this system. Therefore, they continue the system. But they don't go out of their way to improve the system. Nobody does it. No political party does it. That's the truth. Just check up the records. In no state in the last 70 years, the budgetary allocation exceeded 2% of the annual financial outlay. You need more courts. Number is not the only answer. You need, the efficiency is required to be improved. When I talk about the efficiency, It's not only the efficiency of the judicial officer, the efficiency of the bar, the efficiency of the supporting staff. If you have a stenographer who commits 50 mistakes a page, even Krishna Iyer would not be able to write a judgment. His whole time would be consumed in correcting the drafts. Now, when we talk about this is a huge topic. It requires a proper debate. In a discussion like this, in 2 minutes, we can't find solutions to it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And therefore, my one question, and ladies and gentlemen, please get ready with your questions here. So, we have a gentleman by the name of Vijay Mallya. Now, Vijay Mallya has actually complained to the courts in London that one of the reasons why, part of his lawyers are arguing that the conditions of Indian prisons is terrible, and therefore it's a human rights issue. And I guess we all know that the prison conditions aren't the best, and it's very over-occupied. What do we do?
You're a lawyer. Did you ever go to the Tisazari courts of Delhi?
I haven't been there, fortunately. Nobody's
Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Well, do you think the conditions are much better than the present conditions there? I'm sorry. There are hardly 10 by 10 pigeonholes in which the court is conducted. It's a great national problem, resources. Now, XYZ, I don't want to take the names, XYZ, it might be convenient to raise this argument is a different matter. Yes, all of us know that the conditions in the prisons are not very good, very wholesome in this country. The infrastructural situation in the legal system is not very good. All of us know it. If somebody is raising it as a defense in his case, that's his problem. Let him handle it and let the British courts handle the problem. I am not going to make any comment on that.
But it is a genuine challenge that we have in the whole world.
We have the problem. I don't know whether you have ever visited a jail. I had to, an official capacity as a jail and chief justice, I had to visit a few occasions. Some of those jails are really, conditions are appalling. Some of those jails are slightly better. It all depends on the state, and it all depends on the refinement of the superintendent of the prison who's for the time being there. It all depends.
Okay.
Certainly we don't have a 5-star jail in this country. No. 5-star facilities are available for some of these people. Select few.
Including mobile phones. I have a lot of questions, but I want you to come in now. But before the audience comes in, one quick question. I'm very tempted. Under trials in prison, and I'm sure as someone who's been one of the best judges India has seen, doesn't that worry you sometimes that in Indian jails, and I was looking at the data, official data, that the number of people in jails, the convicted are fewer, more than almost 3/4, so 2/3 plus, is under trials. Yeah. And majority of them, or maybe at least a significant proportion, are there for over a year. I mean, isn't that a terrible state of affairs?
You think so?
Even it could be worse.
I'll ask you a counter question. A former chief justice, of course, he was an acting chief justice of a high court in this country, was arrested by the CBI on an allegation he was trying to pollute the streams of justice about a year and a half back. Of course, he was bailed out. As on today, the CBI has still not filed the charge sheet. So we are talking about under trials. If this could happen to a former chief justice of the high court, that he is accused of something but no charge sheet is filed, and nobody bothers about it so far. So what are we talking about under trial prisoners in this country?
Yeah, I think that is perhaps you're right, a very telling statement, and I think there's a big message from you to civil society that we have chosen actually to allow matters to get out of hand, and ultimately, as I say, it will affect us, and it's already affecting us as we talk. A lot more questions, but I'm now going to get the audience in. If you have questions, please raise your hand. A kind request. a kind request, please do not start reading out a passage. Keep your question brief. And I know you're not asking me, the question is for him. So please keep the question brief and to the point. Let's start with you. Put up your hands and we come to you. And I need to balance, we can't be leftist or rightist here. So we'll have you two and then we'll come to the side. I want two people with mics to move very quickly, we don't want to waste time. Your question please. Kindly introduce yourself and please ask your question.
Good evening sir.
Hello.
My name is Harminder Sandhu. Being the teacher and a student of law, so my simple question is regarding section 124A of the IPC, which is a sedition law. So don't you think this law is archaic and it is being used by the executive to suppress dissent in democracy? So do we need to repeal it or at least change the words? Thank you, sir.
Well, gentlemen, these are all matters of opinion. And my individual opinion today is irrelevant. At least till 22nd June it had some relevance. If I held an opinion, if I recorded it, it became perhaps the law of the land, if provided I could muster the majority for it. Now, eventually, if you believe that it's an archaic provision, well, put pressure on the legislature to repeal it or challenge it. Challenge and convince the Supreme Court, or eventually the matter will have to go to the Supreme Court, convince the court that it's required to be struck down. What is the point in simply making a statement? Yes. Abuse of it is a different matter. Whether it should be there on the statute book or not is one question. Even assuming for the sake of argument it is there on the statute, should be there on the statute book. How it is being abused or used is a different question altogether. It depends on the case to case.
I mean, basically, it has to be through public mobilization. I mean, there has to be a debate on it. Yeah, let's come to your question here. Yeah. The lady in the back. Okay. Yeah.
Hello. Justice Chelameswar, very quickly, Congress President Rahul Gandhi is trying to break the pattern and have a Jan Aawaz manifesto, which Mr. Sandeja is part of the collation of. What judicial reforms and imaginative legislation would you like to see in that manifesto?
I didn't get the question.
I mean, would you like to repeat it? But basically, she's saying that there is an attempt being made. All political parties will struggle to kind of execute that. Yeah, let's have questions from this side. I'm going to come to you. And the gentleman there in a blue shirt, and then let's have the lady there on this side. Yeah, the gentleman in the blue, and then the lady in the middle here on this side.
On the lighter vein, if I can take a little liberty with the audience, the best way is those who have questions simply stand up, don't sit down until the question is answered. Instead of identifying blue shirt, yellow shirt.
Sir, this was the question in regards to medical college scam, which you were a part of the judgment and you wanted it to go to the larger bench to decide on a sit. But unfortunately, the previous CGI, which is Justice Mishra, nullified the order. So do you think to restore credibility of judiciary, there should be a review of the petition or review of the judgment?
Well, I would like to, because it was my order, it would be in bad taste to make any comment on that.
Actually, I have two questions.
No, can you keep it one? Thanks for warning us.
Rational.
You are a true Democrat, liberal. Can you keep the close?
It comes from what actually right now in terms of the Me Too movement, responsibility on a lawyer who represents people who are alleged to have sexually assaulted people, and that is particularly so because it's not a case where we have, let's say, the state versus the individual or an imbalanced power structure where the individual would require representation. It is a completely different scenario of two private individuals with differing power structures.
What's your question?
So essentially, whether moral responsibility should be attached to a lawyer who chooses to represent someone, notwithstanding the right that is there.
What is the moral responsibility? What is the moral responsibility you're talking about? I mean, not to accept the brief, is it?
No, it is whether one would attach moral responsibility on the choices that you make as a lawyer.
That's what, in other words, whether the lawyer would have the the choice not to accept the brief. That would amount to prejudging the issue, isn't it? Anybody can be accused of anything, unless the man gets proper legal assistance. That would be you know.
It will be
In fact, yesterday I received a WhatsApp message, interesting message. It says something like this: I don't know why these judges are paid so much by this country. A lot of people judge me for free. It's not there. When the lawyer decides, look here, this is a thing I will not accept, obviously he's judging it. That's not the job of a lawyer.
And since you mentioned lawyers, let me tell you, you know what they say about lawyers, right? There are 3 jokes about lawyers. The rest are all true. Okay. Yeah, let's hear your question.
Hello, sir. Hello. So this question is, I'm asking this question on behalf of Ahana, who's the 9-year-old daughter of a fellow from Mumbai West chapter, Mr. Pritam Padya. Unfortunately, both of them couldn't be here with us today. So she wanted to know, how does a Chief Justice or a Supreme Court judge make his decisions, and what
does the Chief Justice or the Judge of the Supreme Court
or a Supreme Court Justice make his decisions, and what does he do to protect women in India?
What does he do to protect women in India? Okay.
I have no answer to this. I don't think it has it. What is it? It's too vague a question.
Yeah, I mean, there are laws. In our country. We've enacted a very strong law post-net by Yeah, fair enough. That's it. Okay, now let's just, okay, we'll have one question here, and then we are coming to you, and then we are coming, okay, he's already ready with the mic. We finish him, we come to you, and then we come to you.
So,
1, 2, 3. Yeah, please go ahead.
The question is, when we define civil society, okay, we are actually witnessing a regime where society by definition is undergoing a change.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you very clearly. Could you be a little louder?
Yeah, we are coming to a redefinition of civil society. Okay. Now, the present regime has introduced an atmosphere where people think nothing wrong is going on. In the sense, how do we talk of civil society? Because there is nothing civil left in society.
I mean, there is civil society beyond social media, I can tell you that.
You have an IIT, IIM, and Harvard-educated man garlanding criminals. So what then becomes a definition of civil society? That is one thing, one question. Second question is, when Nehru formed Parliament during the Constituent Assembly debates and all that, conventions were attached. The idea was that men and women of refinement, culture, decency, education, all these are gone for a toss. Can we talk of democracy without conventions? I don't think so. Even for the question of Supreme Court judges, I do recall an article about Gopal Subramanian. People made adverse remarks about his ritualistic approach. Otherwise, he was a very fine lawyer. So, how do we, it's a very thin line. Civil society, conventions, parliament. You spoke of Justice Krishna Iyer. He flitted in and out of government. Nothing was wrong with it. But the man was decent. So, when we talk of government posts, when we talk of coming in the judiciary, there was a certain innate decency attached to all these things. Today that is lost. So when you define society,
what is the question now?
So when you define society, how do we define civil society?
You and I. All of us sitting here, we are the society.
Because today we are facing a system where polarization.
If we have become so unconcerned about the systems, so unconcerned about the democracy, it's a sad day, but we must continue the effort to build that consciousness. We must make an effort. If you don't think I'm trying to be boastful about it, why should I come and answer all your questions? There is that sense of responsibility to the civil society. Thank you. I should have comfortably sat back at my residence and enjoyed my retirement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I certainly am not looking for limelight now. At the age of 66.
And let me add one thing, sir. I mean, trust me, I meet a lot of people in Mumbai, and I'm just coming to you in
Just
15 seconds.
Just one second. One more thing. And all this, you know, I receive a lot of brickbats for all this activity. Still I am doing it because I feel I have a responsibility to this society.
And let me add, I quite agree with you. I mean, I'll share that with you, sir. There are many people I meet in Mumbai for whom those many gruesome lynching deaths that have happened is just one thing that happened is forgotten. I don't think many people even have time to reflect on these issues and understand there's a family, there's an individual, there is somebody died for no fault of his or her and brutally lynched, and we are not even debating that. Nobody's talking about it. So I agree with you, sir. We'll talk. We'll talk a little later. I need to, let's hear you.
Good evening, sir. This is Saurabh Bose. So I would like to ask you, there are many laws which are abused. So can a Chief Justice or a highest person in the Supreme Court can make some, guidelines that the law cannot be abused? A sedition law or something like that?
See, there's no point in giving a direction law should not be abused. So what happens? It ultimately depends upon an individual case whether a particular law is being abused or not. As and when there is an abuse of the law, the affected party would approach the court and seek redressal. There is no general fatwa that could be issued saying that don't abuse the law. Yes, I declare it. What happens thereafter?
And second question is, sir, justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes.
So how you would see to improve that justice is not delayed to many people in India?
I told Mr. Jha, it's a huge topic. I can't give a one-line answer to it. It's a huge topic.
But still,
all right, you want a simple one-line answer? But increase the number of courts.
Yeah. I mean, there are solutions we all know.
Simplistic a view of the matter. But that's one basic problem.
Yeah. Can we give a mic to the gentleman here, please? We're coming back. Yeah. And we'll take 3-4 questions at the same time after this. Yeah.
Good evening.
Can you hold the mic, please? No, your mic is not.
How do we save judiciary?
How do we
save judiciary? Because there was a clear judgment on Aadhaar saying you have to destroy and you have to make all the required things to destroy the data that is collected without consent. And we still are not talking about destroying, and UIDAI comes out and says it is still valid, your phones are not disconnected, nothing is going to happen. That is one. And second, there was a judgment which wherein respected Supreme Court asked to do re-verification of KYC, and they have not mentioned Aadhaar anywhere in the judgment. But the organization which is under constitution says, and the respectable minister, by the way, says it is the order of Supreme Court, and you have to get your Aadhaar to get your phones connected. So, and there is one more problem. There are protests. There are people who are basically standing out in the social media or in technical blogs, but unfortunately, the judiciary is probably not aware or not taking the consideration and looking at the media, which is basically printed, and that is biased or influenced by whatever diseases we have for other aspects, right? They have their own special interest, whether you call it TRP or whether you call it something else.
Fine.
So,
we got you. We got your question. So what he's saying basically is that is the Supreme Court not enforcing the very laws that it has made its pronouncements on?
See, the ultimate truth is, no court can ever enforce its judgments. Judgments have to be enforced by the governments. It requires a healthy democratic participation. That's why when I said it in the NJSC, that to rule out the elected government is it can't go with the constitutional theory which I have studied. It is necessary that the government should take all the steps to enforce the judgment of the court. If the government doesn't do it, the courts are helpless finally. It's only the people who can, all right, vote the government out in the next election, whichever is the government, which is not enforcing a particular judgment.
I mean, if you remember, sir, if I can bring that point out, the matter was sub judice because the Supreme Court was looking into Aadhaar. And the government still made it mandatory for people to get their Aadhaar details for a bank account and mobile phones. And which was, in a way, almost a contempt of court. But you're right, I mean, the executive gets away with it, and that's a reality. Can we have, I want to know how many people have questions so we can take a few at the same time and then wrap up. Okay, let's get 1 minute. Let's get a couple of women in. Ma'am, can you come in first? Yeah.
After your press conference, there was a slight climb down by the acting Chief Justice at that point in time. The reason for which was the selection of Justice Gogoi. Here, do you think the government is also backing off? Like, look at the RBI case also now. You know, they've taken 2 steps back. Even with Justice Mishra, I mean, I don't know what they've named, but don't you think after that, had you all not made the kind of noise that you all made, would Justice Gogoi be very
The answer is in the realm of speculation.
That's no observation. That's what I want to know. If that check really happened, the noise that you are making.
I think that the press conference did yield some result, if not absolute result. It did yield some result.
Yeah. We want.
What is your view on that?
How is it relevant today? After the whole thing is. First thing. One second. First of all, today perhaps is a wholly irrelevant topic. Second thing is, when you're talking about unjust punishment, who is to decide it? Now, in the system which we have chosen, the Supreme Court is the final decision maker. The Supreme Court has made a decision. You may still hold an academic view it's an unjust punishment, but then in law there is a final court. That's the end of the matter.
It's argued.
And one more thing, without meaning anything, I don't read anything into my statement. There are thousands of people in this country. Some of them are innocent. Some of them with a very low degree of culpability, languishing in the jail. We should be more concerned about it, not the high-profile cases like the gentleman whom I have nothing against the gentleman. I never met him. I have nothing to do with it. All of us are very active when it comes to some high-profile case. But then a lot of people whose voice is not heard in this country, languishing in the jails. Talk about them.
So we take
Thank you. No, we'll move on. We'll take 3 more questions. So very quickly, let's hear them. Yeah, come to you.
Good evening, sir. I'm Akshaya Mhatre. So my question is, there are a lot of debates going on for capital punishment. Okay, and most of the developed countries have actually abolished it and removed it. So what is your stand on capital punishment? Whether it should continue in India or what should India?
Personally, I am of the opinion that it should not be there. That's my personal opinion. The simple reason that you can't create life. Then what is the correctness in your depriving life? Okay, if somebody is found guilty of an offense, there are other ways of dealing with the person, imprisonment and so on. Whereas taking away the life is something which I personally, but I must also tell you, as a judge, in a couple of cases, I did confirm because I was bound by the law as it existed on that date. My views are different, my philosophical views are different from the law which I enforced because I was under an obligation.
we'll have the gentleman with the red T-shirt. I think. Okay, can you give it to him? The gentleman.
Sir, we have a constitution that's extremely modern on one hand, and we live in a land full of superstition, tradition, rituals, beliefs, and the judiciary gets caught in that. So in future, since you are a judge, how do you think the judiciary will cope with this contradiction?
Don't isolate the judiciary. It's the problem of the Indian society. You have a modern constitution imposed on a predominantly feudal society. When you sit in Bombay, I don't take me wrong. When you sit in Bombay, I don't know how many of you sitting in this hall ever interacted with the rural India. I don't know really. Some of you would have, some of you would not have. But most of you born and brought up in Bombay wouldn't have perhaps interacted with the rural India. Now it's a feudal society still at varying degrees of development. Some states are slightly better, some states are more feudal in their attitudes and their practices and their beliefs. So it takes a long time for democracy to take firm roots in this country. As of now, our concept of democracy is going now. That itself is a happy thing. That for 70 years without failure, elections took place in this country itself is something which is very heartening. Neighboring countries, this didn't happen. But if you want to really enjoy the fruits of democracy, it's a matter of great evolution. If you read the American history, you think America is a great democracy today. If you read its history, we find parallels to each one of those malices which we find in the society today. It's an evolutionary process. It takes time, maybe one more generation, two more generations. It's a ever-continuing experiment. There's nothing like it's over tonight. Thereafter, everything is people live happily thereafter kind of thing doesn't exist. Don't exist in fiction.
Thank you. Yeah, let's have your question. Okay, we're taking just 3 more questions. 1, 2, and 3 here, and then we wrap up. And if you have questions after we are done, you can definitely come and maybe quickly ask Justice Chelameswar for your question. Go ahead.
Sir, my question is regarding invoking section 321 of the CRPC, which deals with withdrawal of cases with the permission of the court. It has been seen in modern times that this section is invoked to please some political parties or for relief or granting relief to a specific number of people, even when the society is troubled at large. So is invoking section 321 in many cases morally right, and is it correct to have such a section in our law?
See, the authority to withdraw a prosecution undoubtedly must be available to the state in an appropriate case. Whether in a given case that power is used for a constitutionally valid purpose or not is a different question. It all depends on the facts of the case. If there is an abuse of that power, then necessarily that will have to be challenged.
Your question, and then we come to the last one. Yeah.
வணக்கம் சார், என் பேர் மாதவன். நான் கேட்குறது ராஜீவ் காந்தி கொலை வழக்கில் இந்த சந்திராசாமியும் சுப்பிரமணிய சாமியும் விசாரிக்கவே இல்லை. நீதிமன்றம் அவங்கள தொடவே முடியல. ரெண்டாவது இப்போ கூட எச் ராஜா அப்புறம் எஸ்பி சேகர் நீதிமன்றம் எவ்வளோ சொல்லியிருக்கு அவங்கள அரெஸ்ட் பண்ண சொல்லி, இன்னும் அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணல. அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு நீதி, எங்களுக்கு ஒரு நீதியா? இன்னொன்று, அந்த ராஜீவ் காந்தி கொலை வழக்கில் அந்த 7 பேரோட விடுதலை உங்களோட பர்சனல் ஒப்பீனியன் என்ன சார்? தேங்க்யூ சார்.
I understand that. As I was a student of Madras University, I understand Tamil. It's no difficulty.
We're a diverse country, no problem.
The problem is, he is asking a question whether XYZ have not been prosecuted. What is my personal opinion about whether they should be prosecuted or not depends upon the material available with the prosecuting agency, whether the material sufficient to prosecute. Now, your individual opinion so-and-so should be prosecuted in connection with so-and-so case, well, it doesn't need any. It requires an examination of the record.
Okay, we have the last question. Manmohan, can you come in? Okay, all right. One more, you have a question?
Hello. Good evening, sir. As a member of the civil society, I feel there is a problem facing the Indian judiciary system is the lack of transparency. This is the functioning, thus the functioning of the judiciary, the substantial issues like the quality of the justice and the accountability are not known properly. So is it possible for, is it right?
So his question is, can the judiciary come under RTI?
No. See, when you're talking about the judiciary coming under the RTI, judiciary has two roles. One is the judicial work, the decision-making process, for which you don't require an RTI process because judges are required to give reasons for whatever conclusion they require. So there you don't require any further information. Now, a particular decision may be wrong, there is a provisions for appeals and so on and so on. On the administrative side, what is happening, whether RTI, the judiciary should be available to RTI or not, is the question. Now, to what extent it should be available is to be decided first. See, for example, all of you know, at least some of you must be knowing, at some point of time, I declined to participate in the collegium proceedings because I was of the opinion that the procedure was not transparent. Reasons were not being recorded. Now, subsequently, the previous Chief Justice decided that we would put the reasons, and actually all the reasons and all the discussion was never put on record. Some broad reasons were kept on the website, Supreme Court website. There were serious objections to it from some of the members of the bench, some of the members of the bar, saying that this would damage the prospects of those kind. The question, then when there was some discussion going on, somebody in the court confronted, how can you talk about it? You protested on the ground that there is a lack of time. Look here, when I said record reasons, I never said publish the reasons in the newspapers. Let the reasons be recorded. They should be available to somebody in this country. Maybe the President of India, the government, the opposition, leader of the opposition, or the parliament, or the future generation. Somebody must have access to that information. I never said every decision you take, publish it in the newspaper next morning. That's not the kind of transparency which I was advocating. Every system has its own limitation. Now, RTI also benefits. In fact, I remember one of the former Chief Justice of India once lamented in a private conversation. Well, he was invited while he was in an office for a function, some program like this, that may not be a political organization, but some programs of NGO or somebody invited. This gentleman had gone and attended. Next morning an RTA question came. Who purchased the ticket? Which hotel did you stay? What was the tariff of the hotel? How much did you pay for the... All these questions.
Fabulous question.
Endless questioning, and if everything is required to be disclosed, well, of course, judges also will be busy dealing with all these things. Now, some amount of transparency certainly is required. A decision-making process which is relevant for the society, not in which hotel I ate the previous night. That, of course, is irrelevant for the country. But when I take a decision sitting as a member of the court on the administrative side to promote somebody or at the High Court level we take disciplinary action against officers. But those kind of things which perhaps the public are entitled to know. Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, the last question here. Last question.
Sir, I'm a lay person. My name is Gemma. I just want to know if English is the language of the court and how long.
Ma'am, I come from a rural background. Until I went to the Madras Loyola College, I could not speak one full sentence of English even for my dear life. What little English I picked up after I went to the college. Till then I was educated in Telugu medium. The question is this: how long will this continue? I don't know. But this country requires a common communication facility. It could be English, it could be French, it could be Hindi, it could be Telugu, whatever this country chooses. I have nothing to say about it. But so long as English continues to be the language of the institution, some minimum degree of proficiency in the language is required. In fact, when you read some of the special petitions in the Supreme Court, it's a very painful process. It is certainly, I know my limitations insofar as language is concerned. I don't claim any great degree of proficiency in English. But even for me, reading some of those SLPs is a pain, a simple pain. It doesn't communicate. I'm not talking about the elegance of the language. The idea must be communicated. Even that's missing. And that's a dangerous situation. It will be difficult to handle the institution with this kind of an equipment.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you that what is very loud and clear from this evening's conversations, and I'm sure all of you will agree with me, that when you have somebody like Justice Chelameswar with us, India's democracy will be safe. And I think that is, and I no, sir, I think you don't have to be so modest about it. You're being very unassuming.
To be modest, I'm trying to be practical. I know, remember Galbraith's statement, modesty is a highly overrated virtue. I'm conscious of it. I'm not for modesty, but remember, one individual can never make it happen. It is the society which makes it happen. One
And I think, sir, that was your repeated, resounding message for everybody. Civil society, that's what all of us are here, whether we are bankers, lawyers, politicians, whoever we are, retired judges, whatever, we are all part of civil society. And I think, sir, as you rightly mentioned, it's very often we who have failed, and it's very easy to blame it on systemic weaknesses, which is so convenient, but at the end of the day, we get what we deserve. Very often, the politics of the day is a reflection of our choices. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's been absolutely an honor for me to be in conversation with him, and please let's have a standing ovation for a distinguished gentleman. No, sir, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for the honor conferred on me. One last word I would like to say. Most of the problems of this country which we face today arise because we have forgotten the father of the nation. Truth. Very rarely people speak truth in public life today. Whatever, I'm not only talking about, I talk about public life, not only those who are in active politics. Anybody, truth is the first sacrifice. Everybody tries to camouflage it. There was a wonderful book written a couple of decades back by a gentleman called Retd on Mughal India, titled Last Spring. There's a profound statement in the epilogue of the book. It says, hypocrisy and psychopathy are the hallmark traits of the Mughal India, Mughal ruling class. 500 years later, India is not much different. Unless we get rid of it, this country will not strengthen its democracy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Hey, white shirt.
And we are now request that for appreciation to our honored chief guest.
Photo.
And from the West, AIPC Mumbai West chapter, we would like our Vice President, Jai Kumar, to hand over the token of appreciation.
Justice Chelameswar, may I take the honor of presenting this on behalf of Make No Violence Foundation. There will be a photo session, so please do not disperse from the auditorium. Thank you. But the art and science of asking questions is what makes vibrant democracies, and I believe strongly that in the last 1.5 hours we have seen ample evidence of that. So I believe that we go home today armed with a lot of things to cogitate upon, to think upon, to ruminate upon, because this is what makes our democracy strong. So we thank you tremendously from the bottom of our heart, Justice Chelameswar. Of course, this is a part of our holding sessions of interactives. This is the 13th such interactive AIPC is organized, and I'm very glad to inform you that the next AIPC interactive will be on the 15th of November, and that will be with our chairman, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, and we absolutely. And then we're going to bring in the new year in January with an interactive session with Yashwant Sinha. So watch out for those interactives coming up. Please do be a part of that. Before we wind up the evening, a couple of things. Please do not go away. And that is going to be a vote of thanks by the Maharashtra AIPC Vice President, Sumit Gaikwad. May I please request Sumit to come on and put up a vote of thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, KP. First of all, thank you so much, audience, for being here on Friday evening, because this is one of the most busiest road today on 2nd November, because it's Shah Rukh Khan's birthday. So the entire street was jam-packed, and we have a huge audience today evening. Thank you so much here. But when we started the show, there were a lot of students and there were a lot of people around here who had a lot of questions about what is this AIPC Interactive is all about. So just to share a small story, it's a very small story. The AIPC Interactive is all about, basically I want to quote a story from a Mahabharata. It's a very small story. It's one day before, it's one day before the Swayamvar of Draupadi. Arjuna asked the question to Lord Krishna that how are you going to help me in this Swayamvar? Because Lord Krishna said, like, I'm going to help you. You just go ahead with that. So when actual Swayamvar happened, it was basically Arjuna has to hit the Matsya, basically with the bow and arrow, and he has to hit it exactly in the eye of the fish. That time, the Lord Krishna replied, saying, I will help you to keep the water still. So that is what we are going to make it here, so that like we'll keep, the AIPC Interactive is going to keep the water still so that the Congress party can hit the target very well in 2019. So to conclude my vote of thanks, first and foremost, I would like to thank Justice Chelameswar for accepting our invite and coming on AIPC Interactive platform. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to Mr. Justice Chelameswar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And of course, our AIPC Maharashtra's President, Mr. Sanjay Jha, he has been always been a fantastic moderator. To name a few couple of people who have helped us a lot to make this event possible. It is Apex, Sanjay Mishra and team for production work, Mumbai West entire social media team, KP Singh for mastering the ceremony, Advocate Vijay Pandey, President West Chapter, Jay Kumar, the Vice President of West Chapter, and all the fellows who has helped the West Chapter, all the West Chapter fellows who have helped to make this event possible. And last but not least, Ajita from Simplicity, who has done a good creative work for us. Thank you so much, audience. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
If I could request you to please stay on stage for a moment. There are also fans and they like to take home memories with you. So picture with the state leadership and the chapter leadership, please.